We'll call the meeting to order. And I'd like to add a couple of things to the agenda, Casey, for under new business. Just a couple of things. The police station and the info workshop for future reference.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or any general nature thereof? See it. Understand it. I take it no hands are up. Okay. All right. Adoption of the previous minutes. Everybody read it, looked at it? Yes. So again, first a seconder. Roger, seconder. Any discussion or changes? Seeing none. It's motion to approve. I approve the. I'm sorry. It's been a scrambly. Everyone want to approve these minutes? I can't even know the term. Hands up. Everybody, yes? Unanimous? Just remember to put your hands up. Keep them up for a little bit while I approve because I can't see all at once. Okay. The Dan, infrastructure development service updates.
All right. I'll go off the notes from last month and go point by point. The accessible parking space still has to be completed yet. I don't think they have completed the painting yet. Second point about reconfiguring parking spaces on Maren's. Mark Hackett actually reached out to us about the facilities manual. So Alyssa and I have been in conversation with him. So he is looking at that actively right now. Next point, Queen Street, there is no change there. That continues to be tidied up. I think they're working on the water main right now. Actually, at Brunswick and Queen, they had an issue with it. So it's kind of throwing them back a bit. Update on the rail lines. Did get a note back from Jeremy. And he said CN did make the repairs to the crossing at Downey and ground down all the trip ledges. Guelph Exeter has not done anything with their crossing on Downey for cyclists or vehicles yet. And he's going to touch base with them and see if he can get them to work on that. We are flagging repairs for concrete. So Wellington Street, along with everything else, will be part of the list. Right now, the list is growing in size. Apparently, the contractor will be starting May 10th, and they're from out of town. So I understand that they will be in town for the week, and then they go back home again. So apparently, they'll be approaching the city in that fashion. So. The curb cut for Tom Patterson, again, that's on the list. Argyle and Mackenzie, that was awarded, and I believe the start date will be middle of the month. Phase 1 Huron Street, again, that has been awarded to Steve Smith. I think he's still waiting on his locates. Locates have been really the problem for a lot of construction projects this year so far. So asphalt resurfacing, I think that's going to be happening later in the season. And I know there's no update on the Ontario Street portion. I've removed the comments about the Patterson and Waterloo Bridge, that they are now complete. Bonnie did ask about Memorial Gardens last time, and I did get an email back from Quinn. This is a community services project. It says a handrail is going to be placed down the middle of the main steps, and the lower level entrance steps on both the east and west entrance are to be removed and replaced with ramps. So that is a project that they are taking on this year. I'm not sure who they're going to get to do their work, but that is an active project then. The next point was about Festival Marketplace, and I did touch base with Alyssa, our planner. And the only way that we could get Festival Marketplace to do any improvements on site is if they came in to update their site plan. So if they wanted to do a site plan amendment, then at that time we could ask them to improve accessibility. But beyond that, all we can do is hope that they will realize that that's a need, and hopefully they'll take it upon themselves. The next point was Dixon Road. Roger had brought that one to the committee. We've looked at that intersection, and I don't know how we can safely achieve a crossing there, because there's no sidewalk on two flankages. And if for us to put a ramp and force people into the intersection would not be doing, it'd be doing more harm than good, I think. So I'm not sure if there's plans on that intersection or not, but at present right now, it doesn't look like it's a good fit for ramps. So it was the update for engineering. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I have one. I don't know if it's a problem or question. As far as I did watch the Huron Street discussion of the Steve Smith contract, and how much more it costs and all these things, and I compared to our budget, and Bonnie, you maybe be able to help. And you get a little discouraged when a Huron Street project is twice the cost originally, and we're trying to get a workshop and trying to get some small amounts added to our budget to do something that a law is being implemented on the AODA, and we're worried about our budget. It just seems sometimes that priority, as far as this committee goes, is a low priority. And maybe Bonnie, you can, or I know Dan, you probably can't answer that, but Bonnie, maybe you can answer that for me. And it may be more of a new business idea, but because it's the Huron Street reconstruction project, and they're able to flow so much more money into that project, yet when we want a little bit, I think we asked something last meeting about having a workshop to educate people or hire someone to educate council that, oh, it's totally out of the budget and it would have been so much less. And we're also looking for accessibility coordinator and so much less. Yeah, I don't know if you can answer that. I know it's a difficult question and might be, but it's food for thought, because obviously with the AODA coming into place and our attempt to educate, which is part of our role, to especially developers and the amount of property it's going up so quickly, and it's going to be too late. And our budget does not get increased by a few, maybe $10,000, and there's a huge $1 million project that we just, there you go. Anybody else have any issues with that? Because I certainly did. Or we can just ignore it. And
I can't really say one way or the other. Sorry.
Anything, Bonnie?
Well, I think, Tatiana was working on this, but with the election just starting May the 2nd, staff is, working, making sure that everything's compliant for the AOD and working on things. And like it was never brought up at budget. I can say that for sure.
The accessible coordinator was brought up. I mean,
yes, and they're going to be hired in the middle of the year, so that's when things will. That might be something that she can or he can take on.
Yeah,
we were
are like 50%. So, because as you know, we started at 10% for the tax, and we got it down to 7.6, and then,
So,
well, it depends. Hopefully, at the end, it's 4.94. But
so I remember
still pretty high.
when I brought up the workshop and everything, oh, we can't because the budget is so tight. And I think it's an important thing to do now as far as educating developers as they continue to put up buildings that are not accessible. And I just think that it's a disservice to people with disabilities in our city. But
I wonder if we could invite somebody from Saba to our next meeting.
that'd be a good idea.
I mean, it's just an idea. Maybe somebody from Saba could come and we could ask their opinion on how to work with developers and help to educate them. And I mean, maybe they can take the message back themselves. And, you know, it's just an idea. I know there's a Saba rep on, I think it's the recycling committee.
You want to clarify what SAVA is for everybody?
Oh, it's the Stratford Area Builders Association.
Right. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we get a presentation from them? And also, I also believe it's necessary to get some, and I will get off this soon. I know Kachen's probably frustrated by me, but I think it's very important to educate social services as well. And I've tried on my own, even as chairperson, I tried and I cannot. And I do not think they're a priority, to be honest. So I'll leave that in your hands, Bonnie. I am a little bit frustrated by the whole process, and we've been in conversation about the difficulties that people with disabilities have beyond physical, but also with attitudes and social services and other areas of the city that we need to do right.
I believe Casey, would you be the one that would invite somebody?
I can reach out to them. I can see if there's, you know, if they have a president or a chair of that committee, and see if someone can attend.
And you can explain to them, you know, what our frustration is, and if they were able to address it.
Or you can direct them to me, and I would gladly share. And we always put it off the province and the governments, but I think the community is responsible, the city's responsible for many areas, but we don't want to address it. And part of the responsibility is to have an accessibility coordinator, workshops that would help Saba, and all the things that we need to do to really enlighten people, including staff and council. And that's what I was talking about last meeting, where we got a 6 to 8 minute presentation to city council, and that's all we got. So I do not want to end there. Do not want to drop this. I feel like it's very important to do now. Not running today, but you know what I mean. Get the ball rolling and get our budget. If everything's, well, we can't do it because of the budget, and then the road gets double the. Oops, sorry. I hit my chair control. If the roads get like twice as much, like the $1 million contract, wow. Our measly couple thou or few thou to do a workshop is rejected. We know where we stand. Correct? Does anybody else feel the same way? I see a lot of blank faces. Nod, be nice, or Peter, you're nuts. I don't know. I really think that this is a serious issue. I know Diane and I have had problems too, and this is not. And then, you know, it shouldn't go away. So I brought that up because of the Huron Street. So we can continue with Dan's other things, but leave that in your hands, Casey, to find something in Bonnie. Anybody else have something for Dan?
If not, I can move on to site plan.
Well, actually, Roger put up his hand, so.
Oh,
yeah. Dan, I'll just comment to the Dixon Road. It seems unreasonable that our city is not willing to remove a barrier, especially for a young gentleman that is now using a wheelchair that lives right across the street from that curb cut. So we would be essentially forcing him onto the road for an extended period of time, as as opposed to putting a curb cut, which we are concerned would force him into the intersection. But we would essentially eliminate him wheeling on the road by half the distance that he has to wheel to go to somebody's driveway to get up onto a city sidewalk that does not have a curb cut.
Well, I'm willing to meet out there and discuss the situation and see if there's a solution that we can come up with. That's fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So reach out to me, email, and have your friend meet us up there too, and we can maybe look at the lay of the land and see what we can do.
Okay. Great.
Okay. All right.
Diane?
No, that's great. Okay.
Dan, when
Yes.
you do Wellington Street,
Mm-hmm.
will you also be looking at the street? Because is it St. David where the underpass is, overpass is? Okay, crossing. You did put in that rebuilt that curb cut on the southeast side, but crossing St. David, the street is in terrible condition there, and then the curb cut up onto Wellington is in awful shape. So I know we've talked about the street, but I just wondered if you would also look at that section of St. David.
I can certainly ask where St. David sits on the repair list, or if there's something that maybe Public Works can do. I know they do hot patching throughout the city to try and buy us a little time with some of these roadways. So maybe that's an area I can ask them to focus on.
Okay, I think it's a bit more than pot patching, but
well, yeah,
whatever you can do, that'd be great.
Right.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, okay.
Bonnie?
I just wanted to say, if you're out and about, you see things on the city website, on the front page, sort of in the middle there, there's a thing called report an issue, and you can go in there and report it, and then they've got it right away. And you can take a picture with your phone and upload it too, and then it will show exactly where it is, because the dimensions are on the phone or somehow. But that's another way of, getting things fixed in the city, because that goes in. It's much better than thousands of emails. It puts it in a report, and it's working out quite well. I know I did a report on something, and they were out the next day. So
yeah, we're dealing with those on a daily basis. Actually, a lot of people calling in about issues, and it gets right to our desktop right away. So it's good.
Yeah, it's an excellent. I've used it as well, so I encourage people to use it and tell others because it does work.
And there's the feedback forum now that Mike Bites has put out as well, to encourage people to say what we're doing good, what we're not doing good, and just let us know. So yeah. those are options too.
All right. Anything else, Roger?
Yeah, Dan, just if we go back to that Morenz Drive parking spots. So is it correct to assume that they have our recommendation in front of them when they're looking to add another parking space? So we made a recommendation, it looks like in the January minutes, and we did have some recommendations, so then just that they were pursuing that recommendation or come up with something else and kind of do a bit of a back and forth so that we can try to get it right.
Nathan and I have been discussing the Morenz one, so we're hoping to get going on that one fairly soon. The one that Mark Hackett was talking about is he's going to create more parking spaces at the Allman Arena as well. So he wants to increase the amount of parking that's available in the parking lot as well. So
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
And
Yeah, because what did we say? We can investigated the Morenz Drive as well as the accessible parking spots at Allman Arena. So it sounds like there's two guys from the city on the case
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's one of the things I've brought like 10 years ago up about the Allman Arena, and I was working with someone who's passed away on it. And then when they did the other one, Roger was instrumental in getting the ones across from the arena.
Mhm.
There were still some issues with that. Now then, when Tom Patterson came in, I believe we brought it up and saying, well, where are people going to park again?
Mhm.
And I don't think we got a plan out of it. We were supposed to get a plan quite a while ago. So if we can pursue that, I know as a father who had a hockey kid for a number of years, it was impossible to go to a game, and there's only 2 spots at the time, and even the one across was taken out. So we need those spots, and I'm sure there's a lot of people with disabilities who need that behind me almost. So you are working with David St. Louis or whoever is.
I think Mark Hackett is the one who's taken the lead on that one. So I'm going to touch base with him, see if he needs our help, and then we're going to look at the Morenz Drive one as well.
Can you include us in that discussion, because there have been
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I can do is I'll touch base with Nathan and Mark and see if we can maybe find a time where we can all visit on site and everyone can get on the same page.
Can we do that with a subcommittee? That way we can get it done quickly.
Sure. Whatever you need, just let me know.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
All right. Anything else for Dan? Okay. Thank you. You can go next.
Yeah. Site plan then. We haven't received anything from Queens on the Jet, and the last meeting we did have with the subcommittee was on April 22nd regarding the Vivian line. So I think they are still compiling their notes and sending them back to the developer. So once the developer will actually address every statement and every comment, and he will have to tell us how he has satisfied that comment. When I get those notes, I'll bring them back to the committee.
A question on that, because I know that parking was a big issue.
Mhm.
If you can explain, because it's very difficult to explain the situation that I found where a person who lives there cannot designate their own spot, need the wider spot. It's not Ontario signage, so nobody else parks in their spot.
Mhm.
It's a contentious item with a lot of developers because they have to widen some of the spots, which takes away some of their space. But it's absolutely necessary, especially in a snow belt.
Mhm. Yeah, and that comment was intimated to the developer. So I'll be curious to see what their answer is back to that. Yeah.
Because in the past, I've made that comment on other developments around here, such as that, and it ended up they didn't follow through. So, and we didn't get it back. So, okay.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Miranda because she's the lead on that project, and see if she has any answers back, and then I can relay that back.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
For Dan, is that it? Do you have any more? We didn't have any more, did we?
I have nothing else.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions for Dan? Seeing none.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
All
Appreciate
right.
your work.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Take care. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Oh, Diane has something, it looks.
Oh, didn't
We
see that.
lost him.
Was it for Dan? Diane?
It's okay, Diane?
Can't
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, it's okay. All right. All right. Update. Oh, that's it. And nothing for transit. Everybody's good with transit. Nothing for parking other than what we already mentioned. So report anything from City Council on accessibility issues there, Bonnie? Nothing for there. Business arising from previous minutes, the update on the launch of the FADM. It's hard to pronounce FADM. You don't have any short Fathom. Anything for the Fathom? Tatiana.
Through the
Welcome.
chair. So I pronounce it Fathom,
Okay.
just for info. So if you hear me say that, that's what I'm referring to.
All right.
So as previously reported, I had reached out to a few members to get some feedback on some initial topics. I received some comments from the chair. With respect to comments from Diane and Roger, if you had anything further that you wanted to provide on specific topics or information from the FATM you wanted highlighted at the beginning, please let me know. Hearing the discussion earlier about inviting someone from SABA here to the next meeting, I'm thinking maybe we wait for that presentation, see what kind of feedback they can offer, and then go further from there with any additional communications, because I was originally intending to post some tidbit information to explain what the FATM is, what its purpose is, and then highlight any specific topics this group wanted to highlight now until we get an accessibility coordinator who can maybe help us focus on this project and lead it.
All right. Is there anything that we can do to maybe if we need a little meeting or anything about it, or you're fine the way it's going?
So through the chair, so again, if there's any initial topics you would like us to focus on for like an information bulletin, so I'm thinking the first info bulletin that we would post would be a general information summary of what the manual is. I know this group talks a lot about washrooms, so if there's specific information related to what like washrooms you wanted me to highlight, that's just an example. I'm looking for little things like that so we could at least start developing those materials, and then as National Accessibility Week approaches, maybe we could like throw some stuff out during there. And again, it's just like a little intro until we can do the fulsome education program that we want to do.
I personally think one of the biggest focus is why Ontario Building Code is minimum standards and why we have gone beyond that. And that's a hard thing to get across to people, that even ours can be minimum standards in some way, in some aspects where you can make things so much opener, easier. We want people to have creative ways, not just go by manuals and numbers, but to think about the situation people get into. So if that is somehow we can get that across to people, that would be great. Anybody else for Tatiana have any ideas? If you do and you think about it later, please send it to her. This is a real important project. I really think if Tatiana, you can reach out to me or whatever, if you need something or have an idea, I'm available. Yes, Tatiana?
Through the chair, I think what I'll do is I'll draft up the initial introduction information bulletin. I can try and cover some of this information, and then I'll share it with you. And if there's anyone else in the group who's interested in helping, I can share it around, and then that way we can refine it. Diane, I see your hand. I was hoping you'd volunteer with your background in reporting and language, and just even grammar and spell check for me, which is always really helpful. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try and get something out in the next like week, 1 to 2 weeks.
Right, and there's some people who weren't here when the project was started and don't realize what we are actually doing. So that would be really helpful if everybody gets some information. Yeah, I'm sure right, Andy and Pam weren't here, and some may not have been as well. Yes, Roger.
Yeah, so to that topic, Tatiana, I would like to be involved as well, especially because it will roll into the AAC presentation to council that we'll be trying to put together. So I can revisit that email and then flip through and then reply to your email with initial topics to kind of highlight.
Tatiana?
Through the chair, just want to confirm, so I'm going to draft up an initial bulletin. I'm going to send it to Peter, Roger, and Diane to start, just to ensure it's on the right track and contains the information that we're looking to convey. Then what I'll do is once we have it in a finalized form, I'll send it to the entire committee. And for our newer members, I'll include some additional background on what the Facility Accessibility Design Manual, also known as FATM, is, what it can do, and why we want to launch and promote it, if that works for the committee.
Great. Everybody all good with that? Nod? No? Yeah, okay. All right. That's even better. I can't do that. I just go like this. All right, so that's good. Oh, thank you so much, Tatiana. That's great. That's a lot of help. All right, moving on, right? Accessible housing and tax deferral programs. I don't know if anything's been done with that at all. Probably not. Tatiana? Oh,
Through the chair, I saw Diane's hand. If you would like to go first, I can just reiterate my update afterwards.
all right, Diana.
I heard from Dan that it will be going to city council at the end of May. Is that correct, Tatiana?
So through the chair, my update was actually that it went to the Planning and Heritage Subcommittee meeting last week. That was the email that Casey circulated to the group. So it'll be going to the May 9th Planning and Heritage Committee meeting, and then it will be going to the May 24th council meeting.
Yes.
The recommendation was to complete that community improvement plan outside of the 5-year official plan review and to refer it to the 2023 budget. So that was what the subcommittee approved. However, that motion can change at committee and or council.
Okay. Are everybody good with that? Any questions? All right, good. Roger, National Access Awareness Week.
Yep, thanks, Peter. So since the last meeting, I presented to the Heritage Stratford subcommittee and got 2 volunteers that are willing to help with the project. So that's good. And I also touched base with Mike Bites, kind of outlining the idea and brainstorming with him about kind of what we were thinking, and he's gonna help get all the information together, and then he'll end up making some short videos that he'll post, and he'll be able to do posts on the website and share it on social media and everything. So that's right in line with what we were thinking. And Diane from this committee has volunteered to help however she can. So Diane, I'll be reaching out once I kind of have a few more tasks for people.
That'd be great. That'd be
Perfect.
great, Roger.
So just to, without getting into the weeds of it here, but I want to do 3 different days or 3 different videos of posts. So the first one is going to be, so the first one will be solution 1, exterior access at heritage buildings, which would be ramps and lifts. Solution 2 would be, so a second day would be interior access, so ramps and lifts. And solution 3 would be accessible washrooms in the Heritage Conservation District. So for those who don't know, it's basically downtown is deemed a Heritage Conservation District, where they there's a big process to go through if you want to modify any buildings. So I wanted to highlight accessible washrooms that are in the Heritage Conservation District. So that would be at businesses that have recently renovated, and also highlight businesses that you can gain access to and that also have an accessible washroom. So that's the third idea that will
Diane and Bonnie.
Roger, do you know if Foster's is in a heritage building?
Yeah, it's
It
in the
is?
Heritage, it's in the Heritage Conservation District, yes.
Okay, it has an accessible washroom. And I mean, you can get it, Foster's can get in. So that's an idea.
Sure, thank you. I'll write that one down.
Are there, oh, sorry, Bonnie, you go ahead first.
Tatiana, do you know if, do you remember about, I want to say 3 or maybe 4 years ago, I think Kathy Vakalosas was sort of spearheading it, and it was getting different stores downtown that had washrooms, and they were putting decals in the front window to let people know that they're open for the public. And I think it was the BIA came to council and requested funds for, I think there was 5 extra washrooms that businesses were, allowing the public to come in. And I know I was in the chef school, which is on Ontario Street, and they said their washrooms open to the public, and it's quite accessible because you just come in the door, sort of go left, it's right there. Do you know if they're still doing that? I haven't heard anything about that plan lately.
So through the chair, I believe it was the Go Here campaign, and those were the decals they were putting. I believe they are still participating in it. And I'm just looking to find where the information is because I know there was a section on our website. Oh, sorry, it's on the accessibility page. So there's a section called external resources and services, and then there's a Go Here washroom access program, and it basically highlights the entire program.
So that would be a help, Roger, right there.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. That's a great idea.
Are there many at all, Roger? Do you know?
Many accessible washrooms.
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah, there is. Like, I'm just off the top of my head. I have a list of maybe about 14 right now. We might not be able to highlight them all due to time and also people's interest level. But if we can sort of highlight ones that have been ones that are, I don't know if the term most accessible, or ones that have recently been renovated to hopefully encourage or inspire others to renovate if they're not sort of being one of the businesses that are highlighted, and it would be for restaurants or places to get food, so that you could get food and then have a place to, or feel comfortable using the washroom.
Are there places that would be highlighted, since we had that project that Bonnie was talking about? I remember that project. I was kind of wondering the same thing, but I was wondering, are these places that you're listing open to someone who is downtown and going, oh no, I have to go?
Oh,
Yeah, those are the ones that I was talking about. These are restaurants that are, and they tried to sort of spread them out in the city.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure the Hub was one, and there was one way down on Ontario Street. I can't remember the name of it now, but I know they were just letting people just, because you just come in the front door and it's right there, right.
As far as I remember, though, the project wasn't necessarily to be totally wheelchair accessible, but the project was allow people who had other disability without explanation.
But I think tourism.
But
sorry,
Roger,
I just wanted to say that tourism, Roger, you should check with tourism too, because they were starting to do accessibility. I don't know, they did a survey and they were going to be marking which stores were accessible and
that's the
with bed
project.
breakfasts and stuff. So that might, be something. They might have some information too.
How long are you talking about? The project that I was doing like 4 or 5 years ago that was disaster?
Yeah, but well, it wasn't really a
It
disaster. But I know you were struggling there for sure. But
yeah,
no, but I'm saying they would have some information. If somebody calls and says, I want to, I've got company coming this weekend and they want to stay somewhere that is accessible, or they want to go shopping, what's accessible. I'm thinking they would have some information available.
So my initial question to Roger was going to be, since that other Go program was not necessarily wheelchair access, I'm wondering, Roger, are you listing people who have to eat at that restaurant or are downtown and, oh no, I'm in a wheelchair, I have to go, and where do I go?
So this effort would not be to promote the Go Here app, which is an app you can have on your phone, and there's participating businesses. This effort is more about accessible restrooms in the Heritage Conservation District. So it's those are two different lanes.
Right.
I understand the value of both lanes, but I'm just trying to stick in one lane for this effort.
So you have to be a patron of the restaurant, in other words.
Yeah, so you would go to whatever restaurant and accessible washroom, but we're going to basically explain that in 5 seconds of video, right? Just like, here we are at the Red Rabbit, accessible washroom, Revel, accessible washroom, etc.
No, you can't use Revel because you can't get in the doors.
Okay, so
Front
without getting,
doors.
I think
Okay.
that was just an example.
sorry, that's just an
No,
example.
but I'm just saying it's not an example.
Yeah, not a good example. But you, Roger, as long as you're clear that you're just doing restaurants that are wheelchair accessible if you're patronizing their establishment.
That's right. And we can save all the discussion for a subcommittee meeting with the volunteers of it, as opposed to at this meeting.
Sounds good. Bonnie, just have something more. And then
I was
Judy.
just gonna say, like the English parlor, they're wheelchair accessible, and you can just take the elevator down the basement and they have an accessible washroom down there.
Roger will collect all that information and bring it up. Judy?
Unmute, Judy.
Can't hear you. Unmute.
Unmute.
Yes, she's got it then. Well,
Press the top corner button. Press the top right corner.
Mine's in the bottom left corner.
yeah, at bottom left, I think.
Mine's in the top right.
If you have a mouse, whatever, put it on.
Ah, how's that?
There you go.
Okay. Bonnie, do I remember correctly in you saying once that it is actually illegal for a shop owner or restaurant owner to turn somebody down from using the washrooms?
Yeah, that's true. The health unit said that, no matter where you are, if it's a business, the washroom's supposed to be available for people. But a lot of restaurants or different ones will say, not restaurants, but stores will say, but we do not have a bylaw or anything saying that. So
Okay.
technically, they all have to be open, but that's an education process too, right?
That doesn't make sense if they are not accessible, though.
Pardon?
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. That doesn't really make sense if they're not wheelchair accessible or anything.
No. She was just meaning like, say you went into, I'm trying to think of something.
Well, I got it, for instance. I was out at Bulk Barn with a friend of mine who she's not physically disabled, but she's on oxygen. And she was a paying customer and asked to use the washroom, and they turned her down. And it was pretty tense there for a few minutes, and the lady was very rude to her. I finally went to somebody else and they allowed her to go in, but there was a fuss and commotion over it. And that went through my mind, but I didn't want to say something in case that I was remembering incorrectly.
Raj?
Oh, got it.
Roger?
Okay, so just to speak about the Awareness Week project again, is that what I'm looking for from this committee is ideas. So now that we know what I'm looking for, ideas, if you can send them over, as well as volunteers to help be in the short videos to speak. Basically, all you would have to announce is like a business name and accessible washroom, or for instance, hoping to do something with Farm & Co., hoping to do something with the Bradshaw Lofts. So we'll just speak about the exterior access or the interior access.
I can help you out, Roger.
Okay, thanks, Peter. And Andy?
100%, I'll do whatever you need.
Great, thank you. And I know that accessibility, like if we have other, as opposed to just like physical barriers, like what are some other things from different disabilities that we could highlight instead of sort of always focusing on wheelchair access, etc. If anybody has those type of ideas, it would be great if they could share them so that we can communicate with our community.
Well, one of the things Diane and I both have had problems with is attendant care services. It all incorporates housing, incorporates attendant care services. And as Bonnie and Diane both know, I was in a situation where I may not have been able to get up in the morning anymore. There's a real shortage of attendant care and those willing to do it because of the pandemic. And I hire my own and I still can't find them, and they don't even require a certificate. Diane is struggling, as we know. She's had articles written and there seems to be no resolution. Now, I know that
No.
might be out of the scope of the city. However, I don't think it is, to be honest. And that's a long story we won't get into.
No,
Maybe we will.
different discussion, Peter.
It's definitely a different discussion, but there needs to be awareness. I think the big thing for me, there needs to be awareness on
Yeah.
what a person with a disability may struggle with. So maybe some sort of article, maybe by Galen or something, someone that might be able to make awareness to this, because it is becoming a much larger problem because of the pandemic. And I know for a fact that it's not just Stratford. Now I found out that other cities are having similar problems, and it leads to abuse. So it is a pretty serious issue. Diane?
Ford has, given that the $3 increase has been made permanent,
Not yet.
well, not yet, but they're getting it. They're still getting it, right? What Peter and I could offer is below that, and nobody, Peter and I are having one heck of a time.
It's a real serious problem, and it's not just, see, Diane and I are connected to the city. We have the resources, we have the contacts, and we still have trouble, and we haven't resolved it yet. So what about the unconnected? What about those who can't advocate for themselves? What about those ones who are getting abused because they know very well that they're dependent on their tenant, and they know they can't.
Exactly.
It's a very serious issue that's become a big thing. So Roger?
Okay, so I think that this discussion is still part of my bullet point here. So where do we feel that this type of education or this type of, I guess, knowledge could be shared? Not keeping in mind, probably not this National Access Awareness Week, just because we already have an idea. But if we can use that idea for what?
It's educating the public, and there's people that don't know what to do. So if there's a person that's interested somewhat in learning the skills, there is a program, direct funding. If there are people who actually want to help people, but they don't know who to turn to or where to go, they can go, oh, well, you know, I always wanted to get into that field, and now I wanted to help, and they can find and read the article and be encouraged to get into the program, or get into where they can call and get maybe students interested in finding this type of career. So it can be turned into a very positive article by educating the public to want to do these type of work.
The article could interview Peter and myself very successfully.
Yeah, we'd be positive. And the thing is, it's not.
Yes, absolutely. But
it's just a lack of, and I had a call actually while I was talking here, because I'm connecting with a lot of people. It's a lot of work. That's why I'm kind of was scrambling here at getting on, also because I wrecked my laptop. But I have been constantly on the phone all the time. I was talking to the Southwest Health line. It's an issue everywhere. Direct funding, it's an issue everywhere. And I'm on the phones constantly just so I can get up in the morning. So I think it's and Diane has suffered consequences too. So if we can get an article, if we can get an awareness article, we can get a network. And that the point of this call is to develop a network where people can access, or attendants who might want to do it, or even have professors or professors are not really professors, instructors of the program, PSW program, to know about what is available, because it's not known what you can do if you need help. And so people are trying it in their own families. And people are having a situation, Diane, or abuse is happening. And it's got to change, and it's a very serious issue. So if we can focus on that, Diane and I know quite a bit about this because I used to do it to help others. That was my job. And now I'm one of the people. So I'm experiencing it. I never experienced this, but I, for 20 years, did that job to help others. It's never been worse.
It's horrible. Anyway.
So if we can do that, Roger. Okay, Roger?
Yeah, so then, yeah, outside of this meeting, we can talk and come up with an idea of when and where such an article as you guys are describing would be appropriate to share experience and educate people.
Sounds good. Thanks. Anything you want else as far as National Access Awareness Week, Roger?
No, I guess thank you for people putting up their hand, and also anybody else that has ideas about accessible places in the Heritage District or Heritage buildings. Please send them along, and I'll reach out. So we'll probably do these videos or request help from you guys within the next 2 weeks, so that Mike Bites has enough time to capture the content and put it together for Access Awareness Week, which is in 4 weeks.
All right, good. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. You're next anyways. Presentation to the council.
Sure. So now the presentation to council. So last time we said about putting together a PowerPoint for council to share them, basically the highs of the FADM. So I guess Tatiana, further to your topic, a little bit higher up in the agenda, I'll kind of build off of what you're working on, and then probably I should get a PowerPoint template before the end of June, before sort of the summer shutdown, to start roughing in ideas and then figuring out the content that needs to be created. And then I'll be reaching out to committee members again for to volunteer to help get the message across.
Dan?
Roger, some of what we'll be putting together for the Awareness Week will be useful. If it might be able to do double duty for the AAC presentation.
Are we not focusing on the new council that's coming in, or are we focusing on, because not to do the old council? Sorry.
Oh no, it's the new council.
Yeah, okay, so make sure. Okay. Anything else? Seeing no hands. New business. I've added a couple things because some things have come up since we put the agenda out, or I saw it. There was Diane, I mentioned police station. I know Bonnie, that's been a discussion. I know I've had problems there too, and Diane has had problems. I remember there was one time the answer I got was the community hub was going to be in the library and the police were going to be together. And since the pandemic and the budget, doesn't seem to be anything happening with that. So what do people do? Like, is this a police station? Dan?
Well, you know how upset I was about this.
Yeah.
And Peter, before you came on, we were sort of chatting about it. Judy brought it up. And I was saying, what if I'd been attacked? What if anybody in a wheelchair or with any disability, walking, hearing, seeing, been attacked and couldn't get in the police station? Well, I called Greg Skinner and he called me back and he asked me to appear before the police commission meeting on May 18th.
Okay.
And so I will be very, very forceful about this.
Do you want me to join you? Because I've had the same problem. It was like, and it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I discovered that there's no way I can go to the police. I was doing it for nothing. I wasn't being arrested or anything. I forgot about that, but
Well, I don't know the protocol because Greg has asked me, so I don't know.
okay. Bonnie might be able to answer here.
Well, I think Diane can speak quite eloquently about
Yeah.
this, and I can tell you that the police are very upset about it too, because they come at budget time and they want to, you know, get a new police station because they point out how they're not accessible. The only way is you have to go in the back door, catch the elevator up, and then maneuver around to get in. And that's only, my understanding is it's only open during court hours, right? So
It's only open during court hours, and the court person, I'm out there in the rain, and the court person would not let me go in.
Right. Same happened.
And she had a police person come down and talk to me out there and take my information because I'm doing a police check. And when Greg called me, he said, even if I'd been allowed in and taken the elevator up, you have to go through the restricted area to go around to the public area. And I said, what if I've been carrying a semi-automatic gun through this restricted area and shot everybody? And he said, exactly. So he said, that's why I want you to speak before the committee.
I had the exact same experience. I had to get police checks for one of my workers, and identical. Everything you said was identical what happened to me, except they didn't talk about guns in restricted areas. I was told I couldn't go through the restricted areas, so it didn't matter. So I think that's really good, Diane, that you're going to do that. Presentation will be excellent. Good.
thanks, Diane. That's great. It helps push it up the agenda too.
But actually, Bonnie, it was on the agenda probably when I brought it up 3 years ago or so. I actually did bring up the police and the library, and we were working on the library accessibility. And I was wondering why, because we were supposed to be concentrating on a community hub, which would really be helpful for people with
Well,
disabilities.
we're still waiting for the federal government has approved the grant, but you know, as we know, 4 years ago, the Liberal had it in the budget, but then the Conservatives got in and they changed it. So I looked through the budget because I was hoping it was in this budget. You know, it's a huge expense, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a for sure. Dan was also working with, I forget the name of the person, but the ministry that takes care of the courthouse, because the courthouse has to move with us type thing. If it's moving, because they pay all the expenses, and because we can have the person that say they're in custody, the police station has the jail downstairs, they can just bring them up to the courthouse, right? It saves a lot of travel expense, etc. And you know, staff having to go and report at the courthouse and stuff.
So
they're working on that, but you know, every time they get close, it seems like there's an election or a change of, you know, it's just a matter of getting the funding for that, because it would be a great location.
yeah, it's
But
just
right now it's not accessible, and I don't even think I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think there's enough room at the police station to make a ramp to come in the front entrance there even.
no, it's no good. Tatiana?
The chair, further to Councillor Henderson's comments, I did reach out to staff who oversee facilities just to get some information on any possible accessibility improvements at the station. And staff advised me that an accessible ramp and elevator was identified as a 2024 project in the facility's 2022 budget. And that's part of our 10-year forecast. Basically, we project out 10 years for members of council so they can see the types of projects that we're going to need to complete over the next 10 years and then their possible budgets. They wanted me to note that contributions to facilities reserves are significantly underfunded for what is needed in the next 10 years, and as identified in our asset management plan, which we recently completed, I should say. All facilities projects in the next few years are essential, and the first step for this project at the police station is to complete a study by a consultant, so they would be determining options for these accessibility initiatives and provide some recommendations. And it's my understanding building services is considering starting this study later this year. So I just wanted to share that with members of this committee.
As far as the study goes, like, what are they studying? Like, do we need a police station? Yeah, we do.
So through the chair, it's my understanding they're studying types of initiatives that could be implemented and in what form. Again, as Councillor Henderson noted, there are some size and other related restrictions with the current facility. So I think they were going to propose some recommendations on what could be added and how it would be built. But again, not a facilities expert, so I will qualify that with this is as much as I know, and if there's further information, I would be happy to ask and see what else I can find.
And I did discuss when I was there about 3 or 4 years ago with a person and a few of the police that were there about whether that building actually could be made accessible. And I've been evaluating buildings for 30 years, and yikes is my answer. I doubt it. And so I'll give you a little forerunning that we need a new police station, and it's old. To make that building accessible would be a waste of money, and even the study is a waste of money. I know we need these studies and all these things, but to be honest, I looked at the facility, and I don't know, Roger, you might know too, but I've basically had the same problem as Diane, and that's when I did do a quick evaluation with somebody there, and we need a new building. And that was clear in our it didn't take long before it was just not possible.
I'll make it clear, it's appalling that a citizen cannot get into the police station.
All these years.
Yes, for all these years. And Bonnie, I will reach out to you about the budget and okay.
So Diane, you're gonna take on that, and if Tatiana, if you ever have any more information regarding that,
Send it to me.
10 years is a long time away.
Yeah.
It's not right. Anyways, it should be a priority. I really think council should make a priority. Now I'm talking to election time, but you know what? It could be a great election issue because it's a serious issue, I think, and Diane thinks. All right, the other one, a couple more. The one that came up, and I know it's Stratford Life, but came up about the service dog at Subway. I reluctantly commented because sometimes that could be lethal to reputation, but I did say that yes, the service dog should be allowed. There are specific, very few rules in the AODA, very slight exceptions to the rule where a service dog cannot come in. I did say that it would be a good idea to call the city, sorry, Casey, and because I know we resolved that issue with the mask before, and I would volunteer my mediation between issues, but the service dog is allowed in, and if the AOD, the city needs to be aware of what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and they should be receiving those calls because people are arguing over Facebook, and it's just not a good platform to discuss it and resolve issues. So I would volunteer myself to be a mediator because I've done it lots of times. But I did say that the committee should be looking at issues when it comes to this, so people can stop this debate, because service dogs have it. I had one for years myself, and I know what the rules were then. I mean, I'm not up to date now. However, I think we should be that, because there's no other way people can resolve these issues unless they come to advisory committee, I feel. Diane?
I was talking to one of my support workers this morning whose son works at McDonald's. And she asked him, what would you do if somebody came in with a dog? And he said, well, I'd tell them they have to leave.
Yeah.
So there should be some ownership on businesses to educate employees about service dogs,
There's another
about
item.
that portion of the AODA.
Yeah, it's a problem. And I think business, yeah, Pam?
Sorry, I just had to, I have to leave in a minute. And so I just didn't want to leave if you don't have quorum or anything like for finishing up the meeting.
Oh, Pam, we're okay for quorum. We still have 6.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll say goodbye now then.
Okay,
And
thanks, Pam.
see you next month. Thanks. Bye.
There is in Waterloo a big incident not too long ago where a guy who had a service dog that he was actually tackled and tried to be dragged out of a restaurant because he had a service dog, and it went up in the courts because he's very costly, damaging to the city. And if you haven't heard about it, I'd be surprised, because it was really in the news. But we need to be careful we need to educate the community. I think that's our responsibility as advisory committee on the city. And I think it's also the city needs to be aware, if they do get a call on staff, where to direct it properly, because it is a very sensitive issue, especially if the person has a disability and may be very upset, and that staff is able to handle it. I know the AODA coming into effect, there'll be more dogs, more people that need them. And if we're not educated, we're going to have some conflicts. And we need to know how to answer them. So, Casey, I do offer myself if you do get a call. But at the same time, I think it's city staff also the responsibility to know how to handle someone who's in distress. Okay. Who would receive the call, Casey? Oh,
So through the chair, I think, again, we need to look at the role of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And again, the role of staff in the municipality. So if there is an accessibility issue at a private business, then something this committee could consider is crafting a letter providing information to a business, or creating an education campaign about specific topics related to accessibility.
Right.
Again, I just caution that potentially acting as a mediator may not be an individual committee member's role in this regard. However, this topic can definitely be raised at a committee meeting, and we can definitely look at various options that are available. And again, if there are issues, related to human rights and whatnot, there are specific processes outside of the city of Stratford that, again, we're able to provide information on, but we're not able to provide the amount of assistance that unfortunately some individuals may require, because again, it's just not our function. So again, I always like to caution that individuals will call the city and we will provide them with all of the options that are available to them. And again, I would just like to remind the committee to continue to look at your terms of reference and what the committee is able to do.
However, yes, I agree. But an issue did come up with the masking, and things from the city were unclear in the information that was set out, and also public health. And so it was sent to me, the issue, and well, just wait. And as a private citizen, I went resolve the issue very easily. So it's just the information that was incorrect. and that needs to be correct. So that's where we do have to. So then maybe we need to make it, because it's become an issue in Stratford or Waterloo. Maybe we need to have that in part of our plan as an education to the city, to the public. But we need to help, because there's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go. There are no social service agencies to help people with disabilities anymore. That is over. Has been destroyed by the pandemic, that's destroyed by governments over the years, and there's nowhere to go. And then you're going to have conflict with social media, fighting, and we need something. So they're going to call the city, and if you have a complaint form on the city website, they're going to complain, right? And we need something. I know what you're saying, Tatiana. I agree. Go ahead.
So through the chair, there is a complaint form on the city's website. And again, anyone's able to contact City Hall and we will direct them to the best of our ability. Again, just wanting to go back to roles and responsibilities. The masking requirements were not city mandated when I believe there was an issue at a private business. Those were public health. So again, making sure that we're directing individuals to the proper organizations is really important. So in that case, directing them to public health was the proper response. So again, I just always like to be mindful and make sure that we're providing individuals with the correct and accurate information and guiding them to where they need to go. Because I do think that's really important, especially when these issues are so, they can be very distressing. We want to make sure that we're directing them to the proper groups and individuals and organizations.
And I think I'm saying the same thing. I don't want to run out there and save a dog or anything. I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what I'm saying. As long as staff is sensitive and realize this is an issue and knows what it says and doesn't say, well, that dog shouldn't be allowed in a restaurant. That could happen if the staff isn't educated, right? And the AOD is included in that. So, Bonnie, did you say something else? Want to say something else?
Well, I just wanted to confirm. So what you're saying, Tatiana, is if a private business does something like this, people that are having concerns with it should call the public health unit. That's who deals with it.
Through the chair, no, sorry, I was just referring to the masking issue. So previously there was an issue with like a mask mandated at a private business, and because that was not overseen or responsible for the city, the direction was to refer to those individuals with those concerns to the health unit. So for, I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, through the chair, it's my understanding that there was a private business in the city of Stratford which allegedly told a person with a service animal that them and their service animal had to leave. So I think, and again, this is just my initial thoughts, that if this advisory committee wanted to pass a motion sending a letter to the business to provide some information about the AODA and what the requirements are underneath it, then I think this committee could certainly do that.
Okay, see, that's very good. That's a good answer.
I just wondered,
Judy,
I was just wondering, on Facebook, I believe I read that somebody said they contacted head office so that head office could educate that.
yeah, but they're franchises.
Pardon?
And they're franchised, so I don't expect the head office to really care. Might send a letter, but I don't know.
Well, it's pretty bad, you know, like a lot of people saw that and were commenting on it.
Yeah,
And Subway doesn't want that kind of bad press, right?
And Judy, I'll get you in a second, but I just wanted to comment on that, saying that it's not the first time these issues come up. So you direct them to where? You want to direct them to somewhere that knows the legal aspects of the AODA. It would be great if we had an accessible coordinator and then we can send them to them. And that would be easy. That's the way it was done in the past. Or it would be great if you can send them to Independent Living Center where I used to work, and we would provide the information and actually mediate for the situation using human rights. And I work with Ontario Human Rights Commission on many occasions, but they don't exist anymore in the way it used to. So it have to go somewhere. And social media makes it 10 times worse because people just argue and you want to help. So I know it's dangerous to go in there. I'm not planning to do that. I've got enough on my plate, but I just want city to be educated so that a complaint does come, they do the right thing. Okay, that was my point. Judy?
There's also the issue that pretty much anybody can go online and buy one of those little jackets for their dog. It's hard to determine, actually. I think dogs should belong everywhere. I love dogs. But, I mean, you have to keep
there are guidelines in the AODA, I believe, and
yeah, but it's hard to look at a dog with a coat on with some sort of an insignia on it and not be aware that they're not actually a service dog.
but then there's a lot of people do placards and for disabled parking too. I mean, we can't police it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So I think we can't really worry about even that part of it because it's just beyond what we're capable of doing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to bring that up. Anything else? Roger.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight again that email that Casey sent about Engage Stratford. That is like the virtual public house or whatever it's called. Sorry, that they're looking for feedback on the master transportation plan by this Friday. So Peter and I attended a stakeholders meeting. I think it was last week. So we were able to give a bit of feedback live, but it's gonna be good if people from this committee also give feedback on the Engage Stratford.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Roger. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else? And if anybody doesn't know, Roger and I can tell you where to find, I think, if I remember, where to find the link or the website or whatever. All right. We all good? Everybody happy? Okay. Well, not many smiles, but that's okay. Okay. Thanks a lot for everybody for helping out. And someone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Diane, seconder, lots of people, Andy or Judy. All in favor? All right. See you next month. Have a great time. Oh, we're going to see probably some of you sooner. Roger, get a hold of us when you need us.
Yeah, I'll reach out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Stay safe, folks.